in the last couple of days, Hamza Tzortzis has eventually come up with his embryology paper, which has been produced as a result of a conversation he had with P.C. Myers and AronRa on the steps of a hotel in Dublin at the beginning of June of this year. Basically, it is a literary and scientific analysis of Surah 23, which refers to embryology, although it only refers to it in one verse, 23:14, although he seems to think it actually refers to it in 12, 13, and 14. And he's eventually, after months of waiting, he's published this paper. Perhaps you want to talk about that, Klingshor.
Sure, why not? It's a farce. I mean, it's just listening to what he's saying. I haven't even watched the whole video presentation of him that's available on the internet.
What point he is trying to make? I mean, it's effectively that the Quran contains scientific foreknowledge, isn't it?
It's essentially this what Muslims nowadays do a lot, which is, I mean, let's be clear. This is post hoc arguments and rationalizations to try and prove that Islam, which they've already taken on board as being absolutely true, Islam, for emotional reasons or for identity reasons, that Islam is accurate and correct and la-di-da-di-da. I mean, so they've already decided that the Quran is perfect, and that therefore the Quran, is also perfectly accurate, and that therefore it cannot contradict science. And these days the craze is that, the Quran has advanced scientific foreknowledge of things that only modern science has just discovered, including embryology, except that it doesn't. And so what they have to try and do is twist these verses of the Quran hugely. Like, it's bizarre how they can look at these verses and extrapolate from them that, the Quran predicted fold-up umbrellas and popsicle sticks, or
Michael Jackson would die of a drug overdose.
Yes. It's so miraculous.
If I can just expand on it a little bit. I mean, basically, what Hamza seems to be doing amongst general claims to authority and quote mining and whatever, he's basically looking at the words that are used in that particular verse and attributing to them a meaning which few others had ever attributed to those words, and in order to prove that the Quran contained this wonderful scientific foreknowledge. But what's of course interesting, it's and we see this being done with the Bible as well. Venom Fang X tried to do it. He stopped doing it after Thunder absolutely nailed him every time he tried. But it is always the case that these revelations only happen, as you say, after the event. After they find out what embryology is and how the embryo forms and everything, then they look back at their theological book and say, yes, of course, we just didn't understand it, but it was there all the time. And for that reason, as Thunder often says, none of these books have any predictive power and therefore are redundant. I mean, you can look back at all sorts of things after the event. That's very easy.
And it's very amusing that with Hamza at Dublin, he was making the classic argument that Muslims have been making since the 70s, based on Keith Elmore quotes. They're not misquotes. Keith Elmore actually said this stuff. I suspect there was a payoff there. It's all a bit suspicious. But in any case, and it was that the bones form first, and then the muscles form around it, and then...
No, because fama can mean at the same time.
But see, the word...
I kid you not, it's now got a different meaning. If you watch the hour and a half lecture that he gives, it's now got a different meaning altogether.
See, but the thing is, it's not thumma. It's not thumma. The word used in that instance is fa, which indicates sequence. And if you go to the authoritative Lane's Arabic English dictionary, when you go to look up fa, the example it gives of fa and sequence is this exact surah, Surah 22, verse 14. With the exact example.
Was it Adnan himself gave that reference?
Yes.
Exactly that source to go look it up. And when we did, this is the source that you that definitely proves you wrong, and this is the one you told me to look at.
Oh, you're not looking at it through...
Blood in the Quran.
but it's exactly what I was saying, though. It's a reverse path from science. You decide where you want to be, and then all you have to do is find the right interpretation to get you there. And you got this entire book and all these different meanings to words and all the little nuances. It's so easy to do. That's why apologetics doesn't require, scientist-level mentality.
Well, as I told you before, I've talked to many people who've said, and literally this, who have said, these may be what the facts are, but I prefer to believe this. And so it doesn't matter what the truth is. They'll call it truth, but when you corner them on it, they will try everything to escape. They don't want to accept what the reality is.
Yeah. I mean, and with... sorry, continue, Atheismo.
Called scientific miracles in the Quran. They're all laughable to one degree or the other, but they're divided into two basic categories: those that require you to tab out and actually look something up just to be sure, and those that don't, because they're just utterly stupid and you'd have to be completely ignorant to even believe them for a moment. For example, with the embryology one, I think the average layperson even today isn't 100% certain without tabbing out and looking the information up whether there's, how exactly a fetus develops, and therefore how accurate, if accurate at all, the Quranic description is. But then there's other where you don't have to tab out, and it's just that some people just lack basic common sense. There was this one, I got in a discussion with a Muslim who said, well, the Quran says that there's sweet water, and then there's the sour water, and there's a barrier between them, and therefore that's evidence that there's a God, and so forth and so on. And I thought, well, if they're talking about the difference between seawater, which is salty, and fresh water, there's no barrier, magical or natural, at all. There's no barrier. And I said, look, if I have a sink, and I plug the bottom of the sink is, and I turn on the tap, and I start to fill it up, and then I take a packet of Kool-Aid mix, and I put that into the sink and stir it up, I now have a sink full of Kool-Aid. But I said, do you think for a moment that the Kool-Aid is going to travel up the running water, through the tap, through my pipes, and turn the entire city's water supply into Kool-Aid? And they blocked me. But the point is, there's no barrier at all. It's just hydrodynamics and gravity. Same with, there's no chance that salt from the sea will travel upstream and desalinate the mountaintops and melt them. It's just one of those things that you don't need to tab out. Anyone should be able to see that some of these arguments are just utterly fallacious.
Okay, we're going to go back to Klingshor for one last point, and then we're going to take our last caller.
So just getting back to the arguments, they used to make the argument the bones come first and then the muscle. Never mind that the word in the Quran is not adla, which is muscle, but rather lahman, which is flesh, right? But let's not let reality get in the way of a good argument, right? Since Dublin, since this whole slew of videos that myself, Stop Spamming One, the Rationalizer, Captain Disguise, and others have made, absolutely smashing the socks off, I didn't want to swear, family show, the socks off these people and their arguments, they've changed them. Now they've moved away from the initial argument, which was that the bones come first and then the flesh, then the muscles, and now they're going into, oh yes, but the cells that go to make the muscles migrate. So therefore that is an example of, it's just that they keep on running and running and running.
They do
it's
indeed.
Just ridiculous.
Klingshor, what I'm going to do, I'm going to remove you now, but thank you very much for the call. What I'm going to do is suggest that whilst I bring in the next caller, Almighty give a shout out for the Jinn and Tonic Show, explain where people can see it, and when, and the content of it and the like, because that conversation is probably more suited to your program than this one. And I'll bring in the next caller. Almighty.
Well, the show is on alternate weekends to the Magic Sandwich Show, except that it runs on Saturdays. And usually the Rationalizer has been a regular guest on MSS, so usually he gives the time. I forget off the top of my head what time it is, Greenwich Meridian time.
But it's in the show, so we'll get him to post it.
Right. Okay.
Give a shout out for that.
Yeah, but it's basically this show, but with more of a focus on Islam. And also, we actually have good callers. It's not like the show where the caller, we've basically given up on the idea of counterpoint. Oh, but the thing about the thing about the word Lachman, you can go to a market in any Arab, like a flea market or one of those bazaars, and you'll see butchers' stands selling beef and lamb and things like this, and it'll have the word Lachman and then the type of animal whose flesh it is. So even the meat that you eat is considered flesh, Lachman, and that's a word that survives in modern Arabic. So right off the bat, anyone with again a basic knowledge of these things can point out that these are mistaken. And I've always found the language-based arguments. I mean, that was really what prompted me to get up off the sidelines to begin with, is because I found so many Christians making these appeals to translation and trying to sort of kick the ball over the fence so that the game couldn't continue by saying, well, maybe the Hebrew this and maybe the Greek that. And with Muslims, it's the same thing with the Arabic, is they try to kick the ball over the fence so that the game can't continue because they know they're going to lose. And while I'm sure the average person can sort of smell the bullshit in the air, it is unfortunate with those arguments that if they're going to appeal to it, there is a technical aspect that not everyone has, I guess, the patience to deal with or the background or expertise. So that was what originally motivated me to start making videos, which I haven't done in about a year.
I'd like to throw two things out about the Jinn and Tonic Show. First of all, on Hamza's argument about the embryology, when he realized that they were talking to an embryologist, right away they changed the subject to geology, because they had to, for the very reason that you're talking about. They have to be able to conceal it from themselves. They're trying to conceal reality. Secondly, for anybody that is interested, if you live in a Muslim-dominant area and you're curious about this, I did a lot of research with Almighty Atheismo and the Rationalizer. These guys are, in my opinion, Quranic Arabic experts, and I'm sure they've got a lot of quality content to the show. So just based on their talent alone. So go to check them out, and don't try not to judge Atheismo by his haircut.
Yes, I would certainly second that. I think it's a really interesting show, far better than this one. Seriously, and it's hosted much better as well. No, but seriously, it is very interesting. Any issues about Islam, I think that it's well worth watching the show.